What is going on, guys? My name is Zach and this is Pat, and welcome to another episode of the Top 10 in 10. Now, Patrick, what's the Top 10 in 10?
So we gather your questions from YouTube comments, from IG stories, questions we get generally, and we collate them and we answer them in a 1-minute format. 10 questions, 1 minute each, hence the Top 10 in 10.
Alrighty, Patrick, let's get straight into it. The first question I must ask you is, I'm looking to lose body fat. Where should I start?
So first and foremost, I would say that you should be tracking your caloric intake. We need to get a balance. We're in a mild caloric deficit. So first we need to have an idea of how much food we are taking in. It's all good and well improving our output, but first and foremost we need to know what we're taking in. So I'd recommend at least loosely tracking to figure out where you're at. Download MyFitnessPal, input the food that you ate yesterday, not today, so you don't cheat it. To see where you're at, and then we can start improving from there. Generally, we want to just clean it up a little bit and help to start improving our output of calories, which may mean doing an extra workout per week, adding a set to each exercise, or maybe even just getting a few extra steps in per day. Real simple. Eat a little bit less, move a bit more.
Question number 2. Do I need a fat burner?
This definitely ties in with how do I start losing body fat. First, we need to be tracking calories. We need to be training. Most importantly with weights, resistance training is absolutely first and foremost. Once we are ticking those boxes, we're in a mild caloric deficit, we're training with progressive overload, we're increasing our daily energy expenditure, like getting more steps in, maybe doing cardio if relevant, then and only then would I look at using a fat burner. It's definitely a useful tool in your fat burning arsenal, but it's absolutely down the list and a lower priority. I look at it as a percentages game. It'll add maybe 5% on top of what you're already doing, but if you're doing next to nothing, you'll get nothing from it. So it's not necessarily a waste of money, but it's not going to be the best use of money. You need to work for it to work.
Right. Question 3. Thoughts on a plant-based diet?
A plant-based diet can be okay, but if we go back and think scientifically, take away the propaganda and the game-changing comments and so on around it, is that our body is made up of cells. Cells are made up of essential amino acids, make up our cell nucleus, 90%, and the cell membrane around the outside is made from essential fatty acids, none of which are really contained in a very trace amounts in a plant-based diet. So it's very, very difficult to get in the nutrients that our body is actually made up of. So if you needed to make a brick house and you tried to make it out of wood, it would be extremely difficult to go about doing that. So I would say that having a higher intake of plants, most people, especially meatheads, would benefit from. However, a plant-based diet would be good, provided it included basically meat and included more complete sources of both protein and fatty acids, which happen to come from animal sources. So vegetarian, very doable. Vegan, very difficult to do and give your body all that it actually requires to function optimally on a daily basis.
Question number 4. What should I eat post-workout?
Post-workout is really just a segment of your day. I look at here's what I'm eating for the day. So it goes in terms, it's like quantity, how much we eat, then quality, as in what types of food we eat, and then the time of day is the lowest priority. So I wouldn't be too overly stressed about your post-workout, but I would be extremely concerned or focused on what we eat on a daily basis. So providing you are getting insufficient amounts of protein, fatty acids, and carbohydrates on a consistent basis, then what you eat post-workout really lowers its relevance dramatically. If your post-workout is extremely relevant and it's of high importance, it's because there's a massive deficit from not tracking your overall protein. So providing you are doing those, I would have some sort of fast digesting protein and potentially a faster digesting carb source. Whey protein or whey isolate would be great at that time, but it really should just be, think of it as a meal throughout the day, not necessarily the be-all and end-all.
Which protein should I be using for fat loss?
So in a fat loss scenario, we need to be tracking our caloric intake. If you're looking for the lowest calorie type of protein powder, we're looking at generally whey isolate to go into the lowest carb, lowest fat, lowest lactose, and by nature of that, the lowest calories. However, the difference between, say, a whey isolate and a whey blend may be 110 calories to 130. It's a very, very marginal difference, so it's not going to make a huge impact. If the difference between gaining and losing body fat was the protein powder you're using, there's definitely bigger fish to fry or higher priority issues that we could address. So in general, whey protein is good. If you have digestive issues or sensitive to lactose, I'd stick to whey isolate and eat really nutritionally dense foods throughout the day.
Question number 6. Training for fat loss, what works best?
The most important thing with training is, one, doing resistance training for everyone, our females in particular, because we want to have something that's going to stimulate our metabolism. The biggest part of our metabolic rate that we can control is the amount of muscle mass we have. Muscle is very metabolically active, so if we can replace 1 kilogram of fatty tissue with 1 kilo of muscular tissue, we're going to increase our output of calories every single day. It's like having a debt that needs to be paid all the time, or going from a 6-cylinder car to a V8. It just chews more fuel all the time. So number one thing is resistance training and basically aiming to progress. Even if your goal is fat loss, you still want to be focusing on building / stimulating muscle. So I would be training to improve your performances in the gym. Not necessarily strength, just getting better at training in general. So whatever style you are training in right now, if you can improve your performance, you will build muscle, and as a byproduct, you will lose body fat. And it will be sustainable, more importantly.
Question number 8. How long should my workouts be?
Very dependent on your goal and the type of training that you're doing. If you were, say, just starting out, your ability to train is actually much greater because the weights that you're using and so on will be a lot lower, and your ability to accumulate volume will be less. Let's say someone's starting out and they squat 3 sets of 10 at 50 kilos. So 3 by 10 is 30, by 50 is 1,500 kilos. But if someone's very advanced and they're quite strong, they might squat 3 sets of 10 at 150 kilos. So the calculation becomes absolutely exponential. They end up getting an absolute ton of volume. That's 45,000 kilos total in that workout. So it ends up being dramatically more. So generally speaking, the stronger you are, the less you can train. And in terms of your time in the gym, the stronger you are, the longer it will take you to get to your working sets and the more warm-up you're going to require. So if you go from 0 to 50, not much. To go from 0 to, say, 200 might take you a lot more work. So it's not so much about the time, it's the quality of the work that you're actually doing when you're in there. And generally speaking, more advanced, probably more time, but less frequency.
Cool. Can I build strength on a plant-based diet?
I wouldn't say it's out of the question, but it's probably not optimal either. Like if you wanted to, if you think about it, if you wanted to go as fast as you possibly could, would you put the cheapest, lowest quality fuel in the car? No, you'd probably fill it with the premium fuel that it actually requires to run on. So our body is made up of muscle, in particular, is made up primarily of protein. It's made up of water and essential amino acids. Protein, that's the building blocks. So if it's very difficult on a plant-based diet to get in enough total essential amino acids. If I weigh 85, 86 kilos, I need to get in about 180, 200 grams of protein. Doing that from plants, it's going to be extremely difficult it's an uphill battle to get in that much protein without having an absolute ton of carbohydrates and fat alongside it and completely blowing out my calories. So I would prefer to have some more concentrated protein sources during the day to be able to hit my number and do it consistently. I think you could follow a plant-based diet for a day easily. Could you do that for 10 years? Probably unrealistic, and it's not really optimal for building strength when you need enough total protein to do it.
Question number 10, and this is appropriate coming into the festive season. Staying on track while on holidays.
Cool, yeah, definitely. Very topical question. So if you are on any sort of holiday, Christmas, whatever it may be, I would say it's not a bad time to reduce your training volume. If you know that you're going to have less access to gyms, if you're going to be traveling to see your family, your partner's family, whatever it may be, and the access to a gym might be a little bit reduced, lower your expectations. If you train 2 or 3 days a week instead of 4 or 5 days a week for a week or two, you're not going to die. You're not going to fade away. It's not going to completely blow out your body or your physique. Have a plan. If you know that you're going to eat slightly bigger meals and maybe a little bit off your typical plan, just eat less meals. If you know you're going to have a large, say, Christmas lunch, have a really light breakfast. Don't go 12 out of 10 fatty on every single meal. Just if you're going to if you have a 2,000 calorie plan at the moment, you know a meal is probably going to be like maybe 1,000. Probably don't eat 4 other meals throughout the day. Just focus on the big wins and relax and enjoy yourself as well. Have some time, enjoy it with your family, enjoy the holiday and so on, and don't be a complete nutter when it comes to training and nutrition. You can still live life, lift weights, have fun, enjoy it without being a complete psychopath. If you take boiled chicken and broccoli to Christmas lunch, you probably lost the plot.
Well, that just about wraps up another Top 10 in 10. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. And as always, if you do have any questions for our future Top 10 in 10s, drop them down below.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.